It's time the Catholic Church stand for justice. It's time we hear the voices of the pastors of the church. We hear the voices of the priest. We hear the voices of the bishop. We hear the voices of the archbishops. We hear the voices of the Pope standing for justice.
Until a certain part in that diatribe, I was inclined to say nothing, because the Eucharist is not a place to divide us. And I want that to be made clear. I don't hold Father Jerry accountable for what he does not know. He was not there every day, every hour, every Mass of the retreat, as far as I remember.
With your bishop's permission and the permission from the congregation, I shall have 2 or 3 minutes to say a few words to all of you. We just had a very beautiful dance. And dances, like everything else in our lives, tell stories. This dance we just had tell us stories, give us narratives. And depending upon our interpretation, we will have this or that or the other story to tell of the dance. A very famous Indian chief, one of the indigenous Indians in the United States, a couple hundreds of years ago, said, whenever the Europeans who were fighting them, who were the colonizers, whenever they win a battle, they call it a victory. But whenever the Indians won a battle, they call it a massacre. And that is why you can hear people very often talking about my truth. They don't talk about the truth. Truth is, to a great extent, objective. And to only a certain extent can someone claim my truth. What we do is we corrupt the truth to make it into our own, to fancy it into a fashion that fits us and makes us happy and defend us and protect us. We are seeing beyond anything we have ever seen the story, the narrative that is unfolding in Gaza. Beyond anything we have experienced, the 7th of October has been a trigger. And you know what the trigger is? It has been a trigger to give an opportunity for all that is happening there today. It is something that has built up over a long period. The whole-scale slaughter of people. Israel has exposed itself for what it is in the world today. And yet, you're slaughtering people. You are committing a genocide. You are starving people of water, electricity, food, and everything necessary for life. And you simply say you are defending yourself. And yet, even as Israel has exposed itself, Israel and its allies, the United States and the Europeans, they're still trying to cover themselves and saying that Israel has a right to defend itself. You're killing innocent people and you call that defending yourself. The United States is giving 2,000 pounds bombs to Israel to bomb everywhere. People out in the open looking for food and looking for water. They've been killed in their hundreds and their thousands. And yet, that is defending. That's the narrative you give. That's your story. That's your truth. That's how you coin it in order to put a brave face on the ugly deeds that you're doing. Just look at the hundreds and thousands of crushed skulls of adults and women and children, the bombing of the innocents, homes, schools, hospitals, universities. You're killing everything in sight. That is called in your narrative self-defense. And you do have a right to defend yourself. And that is what was done to Gaza. You give them limited food, limited water, limited energy. You just give them a survival diet. The Israelites are actually counting the calories that they're going to give each individual in Gaza since 2006. And they have reduced it to nothing. And also part of the narrative is to defame people and call them names. You call them human animals. So if they're human animals, two-footed animals, then you can kill them. We had a priest retreat, I think it was in October. But just in the few weeks when the carnage began in Gaza, a priest retreat in Mount St. Ovens, as we usually do every year, and I heard nobody talk about the genocide. There was no conversation about it, period. We ate and drank. We had sumptuous meals. We had dinners. We had lunches. We had breakfasts. We had breaks. We had everything. And we had dessert and all the time. But nobody said anything about Gaza. Because what a narrative does is that it consumes people and it controls people, so that the narrative is not just for you and your people, but for everyone else. We too in the West are consumed by the Israelite narrative, so much so that we, in total agreement with what is going on. I call upon the church today to get its freedom and get its voice and speak up for justice. In 1971, the Synod of Bishops meeting in Rome said that justice, the work for justice and human rights, is constitutive of the preaching of the gospel. We cannot rightly ever preach the gospel if we do not stand for justice. It's time the Catholic Church stand for justice. It's time we hear the voices of the pastors of the church. We hear the voices of the priest. We hear the voices of the bishop. We hear the voices of the archbishops. We hear the voices of the pope standing for justice. When you stand in silence, when you sit in silence, you are part of the injustice. In the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit.
Until a certain part in that diatribe, I was inclined to say nothing, because the Eucharist is not a place to divide us. But we all stand up for justice. How we stand up for justice depends on our insights, how we see things. I went to London and Rome in January for a meeting of bishops from all over the world, Catholic and Anglican. Bishop Friday accompanied me, representing the Caribbean. One of the things that was a great source of encouragement and challenge to me was to hear the Anglican bishop responsible for Gaza and the Catholic bishop also responsible for Gaza talking about the situation and begging us to be slow to speak, because they will speak when they can. And since then, we have had some. It is not true to say that the clergy of this diocese went on a retreat and did not think about Gaza. That is just not true. And I want that to be made clear. I don't hold Father Jerry accountable for what he does not know. He was not there every day, every hour, every mass of the retreat, as far as I remember. So your priest, and certainly me as your bishop, Gaza is always on my mind. The situation in the Ukraine has always been on my mind. More particularly in my prayer, the situation in Sudan, because one of the Catholic bishops in Sudan became a dear friend in 2018. There are many different things going on in the world today. The Catholic Church is caught up in every aspect of it. We can be proud to belong to a church which fails sometimes, but which in terms of its witness is always standing up wherever it can for justice. And we need to be aware of that. There's nothing to be ashamed of. We need to do better, yes. Right? And last Wednesday I mentioned Father Jerry as somebody who's helped me to learn to do better. But we have to be careful how we present things, and we have to be careful lest we attack people who are innocent. So I'm not too sure how I feel about this moment. Part of me says it's good to have the church experiencing this. Another part of me says this was meant to be a Eucharist in which we celebrated our unity. And I did not give Father Jerry permission to say what he said. What I said, when I passed him, I heckled him, and I said, it's good to know I have a Muslim among my priests. But that was a joke. And I hope he took it in the right spirit. But in standing up there, we can defend the plight of Muslims. And let's be clear, the Catholic Church has always defended the plight of Muslims in unjust situations. But we cannot do so in compromising the total picture. My task now is simply to thank all of you for being here. I didn't know that was something I had to do this evening, otherwise I would have made a list. But we make mistakes, we leave out people and so on. But I have to thank all of you for being here. As I said at the beginning, I thank especially the young people for coming. And those of you who are to be confirmed, there's a lot of work for the church to do. We are way behind in so many ways, right? My task over the next months is to try to lead the way forward until I hand over to someone else.
Hi everyone, thanks for checking out the Bub Report's social media pages. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch our weekly live show, follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch repeat episodes on Wednesdays at 4 and 5 p.m. respectively on CRFM Radio and GBN TV in Grenada. We are also viewed on Sundays at 8 p.m. on WPG 10 throughout the Caribbean. Thanks for watching.